All right, let's talk about 2025. We're going to break down the biggest, most important trends in AI, all based on Simon Willison's incredible annual review. And trust me, it was a wild year.
For the longest time, the AI race was all about size. Bigger was always better. But in 2025, the whole game just flipped. It wasn't about who was the biggest anymore. It was about who was the smartest. We're going to dive into what that really means, because it was a huge shift, a move from just raw power to something a lot more sophisticated.
So, what was the biggest story of 2025? It wasn't some ridiculously huge new model. Nope, it was a smarter one. And it all came down to this one foundational leap, this one capability that every single major lab was scrambling to nail down. And that capability? It's called reasoning. Okay, so what is reasoning anyway? Well, the AI researcher Andrej Karpathy put it perfectly. Think about it like this. It's the difference between a student just shouting out an answer in math class versus them actually showing their work on the board. Instead of just, jumping to a conclusion, the models finally learned how to think things through, step by step. And the process itself, it's actually pretty intuitive. It's how we solve problems. First, the AI takes a really complex question and just deconstructs it, breaks it down into smaller, manageable chunks. Then it formulates a plan, a strategy. And then, and this is the really crucial part, it executes that plan, looks at the result, and asks, did that work? If not, it reevaluates and adjusts its approach on the fly. It's that feedback loop that changed everything. Now look, this new skill was cool for solving logic puzzles and all that, for sure. But that wasn't the real game changer, not even close. The real unlock here, the thing that blew the doors wide open, was that reasoning gave AI the ability to use tools and to actually do things in the real world. And that's where agents come in. This new reasoning ability, it basically gave birth to a whole new category of AI. These are systems that can use tools. We're talking search engines, code interpreters, APIs, the whole shebang, in a loop, over and over, to get complex stuff done without a person having to hold its hand every step of the way. So where did we see this first? Well, a big one was search. You remember, right? Asking an LLM a serious research question used to be a total crapshoot. You'd get something amazing, or you'd get complete nonsense. With these new reasoning-powered agents, though, it was a different story. Those tasks that were super hit or miss, they suddenly became genuinely, reliably useful. But the breakout star of 2025, the real hero of the story, was the coding agent. I mean, just think about this for a second. We're not talking about an AI that just suggests a snippet of code. We're talking about an autonomous software developer, an AI that writes the code, executes the code, inspects the error messages, and then iterates on its own work, debugging itself until the problem is completely solved. It's kind of mind-blowing. And the impact? Oh, it was absolutely enormous. This wasn't some little niche tool for hobbyists. By December, just one of these, Anthropic's command line agent Claude Code, was on a $1 billion revenue run rate. $1 billion for a command line tool. That just shows you how incredibly valuable this new way of working actually was. Okay, so when a technology this powerful and this valuable hits the scene, what happens? The entire competitive landscape gets completely redrawn. The old guard, the leaders we all thought were untouchable, well, they suddenly found themselves in a real fight, challenged from all sides. I mean, just look at this. This is the ranking of the top open-weight models at the end of 2025. And it's just stunning. In what felt like an overnight shift, Chinese labs took 5 of the top 6 spots. 5! It was this incredibly dramatic and sudden departure from the US dominance we'd seen just the year before. Nobody saw this coming. And it wasn't just in the open-weight world. Among the big US tech giants, the story was just as wild. OpenAI, their undisputed lead, poof, it just vanished. Why? Because Google's Gemini program had an absolutely killer year, challenging them on every single front. And Meta's Llama, which was the king of 2024, it kind of lost its way, releasing models that a lot of people found pretty disappointing and honestly just too big to be practical. So, of course, this giant technological arms race wasn't just happening in some Silicon Valley vacuum, right? It had a real direct impact on all of us, on users. It created a whole new set of economic rules. And, yeah, some pretty noticeable side effects for society. And this new power, well, it came with a pretty hefty new price tag. Sure, that old $20 a month subscription was still an option, but if you wanted access to the real deal, the top-tier AI agents from OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic, a new standard was set: $200 per month. And as these incredibly powerful tools got woven deeper and deeper into our daily lives, we started to really confront two major, and I mean major, consequences. First, some profound new security risks. And second, what can only be described as a tidal wave of low-quality junk content. So, if you were a developer using one of these coding agents, you basically had a choice to make every single day. You could run it with the safety on, slow and steady, where it asks for your permission for every little thing it does, or you could flip the switch on what everyone started calling YOLO mode. It was way faster, way more powerful, but also really, really risky. And here's the really dangerous thing about YOLO mode. Every single time you run it and nothing bad happens, you fall a little deeper into this psychological trap. It has a name: normalization of deviance. And it's a concept that security researchers point to that, well, it originally came from a very different and very tragic place. The term was actually coined to help understand the 1986 Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. See, NASA engineers had known for years that the O-rings were a potential problem. But after successful launch, that huge risk just became normal. It was accepted. Until, of course, the day it wasn't. And that's the parallel security researchers are warning us about now. Then there's the other side of the coin. On the cultural front, that tidal wave of low-quality, AI-generated stuff became, well, it became so overwhelming that it got its own name: slop. It got so pervasive that Merriam-Webster actually crowned it the 2025 Word of the Year. It just perfectly captured that feeling of our digital lives being completely overrun with junk. So let's just recap for a second. 2025 was really the year AI grew up. It learned how to reason. That reasoning ability powered a new class of tools called agents. This whole thing ignited a massive global power shift in the industry. And now, here we are, living with all the consequences: the economic, the security, and the cultural ones. Which leaves us with a really provocative question, doesn't it? The longer we keep getting away with running these incredibly powerful systems in these fundamentally insecure ways, the closer we get to a challenger disaster of our very own. So what happens next? Are we actually building this incredible future? Or are we just getting used to ignoring the risks, right up until the moment it's too late?